Good afternoon, my friends. This is Paul, and today I'm going to be reviewing to you Super Kiwi 64 for the Nintendo Switch. The adventures of the flightless bird Kiwi have certainly been an interesting ride. Kiwi 64 released to basically every other modern console except the Switch, and it was a one-level tech demo for how a throwback to Banjo-Kazooie and other Nintendo 64 collectibles could work. And it was pretty well received. Then MacBat 64 released for the Switch, made by the same developer, and it included the full game as a bonus if you knew where to look. So that was how I was able to play it for myself, and I thought it was really fun. The camera controls worked really well. There wasn't really a whole lot of things that Kiwi could do besides jumping, but it was still really nice to just experience that atmosphere of the googly eyes and collecting everything in sight that Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64, and probably other forgotten gems were able to do. And then, in Beanie, you were able to unlock a preview of Super Kiwi 64 at the very end. So, we finally get a follow-up that fully realizes the potential of Kiwi. And is it worth it? Well, let's find out. Since the original Kiwi 64 only had one level, the Super Kiwi 64 sequel had to really step up their game. Now there are 8 levels, and you can explore them in whatever order you want. This game actually has a hub world. It's not really that impressive. It's just an underground sewer that looks like a room in Banjo-Kazooie's Clanker's Cavern. Basically, there's a pipe that's locked until you collect 48 gems, and there's an airplane that's locked until you collect 40 gems. There are 50 gems overall, so I do think that's a little bit steep of an asking price when all you really do is you beat the game and the ending sequence isn't really that memorable, so that's a bit anticlimactic. The good news is that the 8 levels themselves control really well and have a tremendous amount of freedom, since you can play them in whatever order you want, and you can obtain the collectibles in any order. There's not really any parameters given to you. Your abilities are, of course, running and jumping, but this time you have a jetpack that lets you run faster, as well as gliding, and you can even glide faster. Kiwi also has an offensive move where he sort of drills with his beak, which you can use to attack enemies or to cling onto walls and really exploit the game by climbing any wall you want. And unlike Breath of the Wild, you don't have any stamina, so you can just keep climbing so much so that you even break the game and you're able to see out of bounds. The game also has full camera control, and you can choose whether to invert it or not. And the camera, for the most part, works really well. You're able to see pretty far into the distance, and it's usually not that hard to spot where you have to go next, because the levels often have a great sense of verticality. So you can often get to the highest part of the level, and you can just sort of pan around and be like, oh, there's my next objective. Now, one thing that's a little bit unfortunate about the gliding is that while it works really well, you also use the A button to glide. And this is a little bit annoying because that means that your right thumb is holding down the button, but your right thumb is also used to control the camera, so unless you use the Switch's button mapping, it's going to be a really awkward experience. Thankfully, this usually only happens near the end of the level when you have like 1 or 2 gems left to collect. Now, getting the gems often isn't really that clever, whereas in Banjo-Kazooie they often had a variety of mission types. Most of these revolve around collect all of the cogs, collect all of the golden rings, hit all of the targets. They don't often break any genre conventions. The levels themselves, while they're fun to explore, don't really have a whole lot of personality besides a forest theme and a desert theme. There's not really any characters that you can talk to that made games like Banjo-Kazooie so memorable. You really sort of just have the thrill of flying around and jumping with the really good controls that this developer has been known for since day one. I really like Super Kiwi 64. I think that it was a great throwback. I think that it was really reasonably priced, so much so that I was able to save up my gold points to get it for free. And even though I thought the ending was very anticlimactic, I do think that this game has a decent enough post-game that it'll reignite those N64 cheat code searching moments. Because if you manage to collect 48 out of the 50 gems, you unlock a new level which automatically gives you the 49th gem, and it has an input where you can enter a cheat code. Now the way that you find these cheat codes is that hidden in each level are a group of symbols, and if you enter those symbols correctly, then you get a various cheat, either turning into a new character or adjusting Kiwi's stats. And in one of the cases, I won't spoil it, but in one of the cases you get something really cool that helps you obtain the 50th gem. And I thought that these cheats were hit or miss, as some of them were really cool. Some of them felt like, is this really going to affect the game that much? But I did think that the journey of searching the levels to find the codes was a lot of fun. And so it added, I guess, a little bit of replay value, as you could go back to the levels and try to beat them with this new unlockable. Overall, I think Super Kiwi 64 is a fantastic experience. Would I recommend it to most of you? Well, I would recommend the price, absolutely. They're charging somewhere between $1 to $3 depending on the day, and I think that's a steal of a price. Especially when you consider that this developer is known for pricing his games extremely cheaply. I think you should ask yourself if you really like collectathons, because that's pretty much all that this game is. It doesn't really have a whole lot of puzzles or anything fancy like that, and usually the platforming isn't that hard either because of Kiwi's beak letting him climb up almost every wall. I know I said every wall earlier, but that was a mistake. But if you really love reliving the glory days of these polygonal graphics and the simplistic but effective music, then I think Super Kiwi 64 is worth your money. Either way, if you have enough gold points, you probably don't even have to pay for this. So if you've been saving up, yeah, give it a try. Just don't get into it if you're a fan of platformers that challenge you to get to the end and not have such an open-ended sandbox level design. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Before I close, I'd like to thank my patrons Matthew Rakowski, Sploon Ghost, and Splatcat for supporting me financially. The link will be in the description if you'd like to join my Patreon page. And until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye!